So I wanted to kind of do a docu-series or whatever you call it, recording on me and where I am in life and how I got here and just the processes that it took to get here. I remember just so many situations that I could pretty much bring about that kind of led me here. I remember sitting in my cubicle in 2020 is where I believe I'll start, and I used to meditate during lunch. I would just close my eyes, put my headphones on, and just zone out. Um, I remember thinking, I wanted the opportunity to work from home. There was a young lady who worked there, and there were always obstacles that were preventing others from doing what some couldn't do, and I didn't understand that because I've always felt like we're all the same. And I had an experience within that company at that time where I would say about 2010, I believe it was, I started to obtain my career because my degree because I wanted to move up that corporate ladder. I was discouraged about 3 years later, I would say, by my manager at the time, and she told me that it wasn't about it always wasn't about what's on paper. And the reason why I was obtaining my degree is because I was told that's what it is required. She was absolutely right. But like I said, I moved up. I obtained my degree. Eventually, I did move up. My income didn't increase though. I worked around it, and I got to a point where I was tired of fighting with someone approving me, and that was just so long ago now. But it taught me lessons, and it taught me so many lessons. Like I'm very I used to be having to learn lessons the hard way, and I because I think I've always pretty much had myself at a expectation of I teach through experience. So a lot of times things that I've learned I've been taught by experience, which is why I have the Portugal experience of my life, which is what I am and who I am and pretty much what I'm geared and centered around. It was just my whole experience in this life. When I created the Portugal experience, like I said, I was in a cubicle at work and I just would see so many differences in people and life circumstances, and it was really confusing to me. And I never was angry with the people. Some people get angry with other people. I was never angry with other people. I just always felt like, I never even felt like it wasn't fair. I just felt like there must be something else, something that maybe they obtained or they knew that maybe I didn't know. Um, I've always felt like we are all in this world and we're created the same regardless of what our skin color is or what our body shape is or what we look like on the outside. I've always dealt with the internal parts of a person, and myself, I've always just been very inclined to feel people's spirits, and just know when there's a bad person around or there's a good person around. And a lot of times, um, I've just went on that, and that's just how I treat people is the way that I feel around you. And I learned that as a child because as a child I learned a lesson very early on about paying attention to the way I feel. And during a situation that transpired, there was one of my adversities in life as a child. I was asked how I feel, which was ironic because it was the very first time that something like that had transpired with me, but the person asked if it felt good, and I said yes. And even now, that intuition in my stomach just gets to me because I should have said no. I should have said no. And I think that kind of led me where I am now because um, if I would have said no, then I probably would have felt as if I probably would have, things may have been different. I don't know, but things turned out the way that they should have been. And at this point, I'm able to say no. And I'm proud of myself for being able to say no and to be able to agree with saying no and to be okay with saying no and still loving me and allowing me to be loved. Just because I said no doesn't mean that anything is wrong. It means that I choose me and that I agree with what is happening in my life. So, yeah, sitting in that cubicle at that time and just seeing how life was different on many, many levels. Um, Even personal, it was just so many things that I could say about in comparison to life because one person's life is different from the next. In my opinion, of your siblings, you have a different conversation, you have a different life story from your other siblings. And sometimes in a marriage or just in any situation, any situation, I feel like no one's going to tell the exact same story. No one's going to have the exact same, just the same blueprint, I guess is what I would say. We each have our own separate blueprints. And I'm just extremely grateful to know where life has led me and in this place of life, how things have just transpired to a place where I'm in a whole other environment. I've been in different environments. I've done things that I never would have thought I would have done. Um, there's so much expansion, so much growth. Um, just since 2020, and I look back and reflect on the way that things have transpired and the way that really my life had been led in ways that I didn't pay attention to, situations that were created and how they were created and things I asked for and how they transpired and at the time why I thought they transpired the way and the difference between looking back on it now and not looking back on things too much because there's no point in looking back on the past. We only have the present of now and that's why I try to remain now and being. Um, at some point I'll be able to share just the experience of now, and not wanting to look back on it, but wanting to just offer it as hope for someone, to just offer it as the experience. And like I said, for myself, I always had to take on the experience of something to feel like, oh, now I can speak on it, or now I know about it. Not anymore. I'm on the path of creating what I want to see for myself and not trying to have experiences to speak on for others. Now is watch me. Watch me now, is just a difference with me wanting to be sure that I was there for others in so many ways. And like I say, that initial thinking on it, speaking on it at this moment, I couldn't own me. I couldn't own me. And I've always fought for me. I've always made my own decisions. I've always done what felt right for me. And in that right for me, it was always not wanting someone else to feel, I guess, that they couldn't feel right for themselves. So I was always there for someone or always trying to show up or encourage someone to be there for themselves. I really didn't do a let me do it for you ever done that. It was always a let me be here for you, let me encourage you that you're who you are. And I hadn't had that in my life. I didn't have an example of it so much so until, like I said, even in this cubicle situation, I did have one person who was always there for me and who reminded me that I mattered so much and that I was someone and that they cared for me. And I really couldn't understand that in that moment because I've never had such a bond with a person or someone who was like fighting for me to fight for me the way I've always fought for someone else to fight for themselves. So yeah, I can feel her spirit. Like, Jane, I love you so much. You're, yeah, just a rock star in my life. just amazing woman. Um, but yeah, she really showed me and encouraged me. She believed in me in ways that didn't have to say, I believe in you. It was, girl, you don't see who you are. And I was so succumbed and overtaken by being there for others that I forget to think about me. And I went through a whole last couple years learning that lesson over and over and over and over again, um, while being here for my children in such a way that I am for them. But yeah, I just learned those lessons over and over and over. Um, and just so much growth throughout that time as well. And like I said, it's gotten me here. I was able to look back and say, okay, this isn't what I want for my life. I don't want to sit in this cubicle and drive. I had gotten to the neighborhood that I wanted to live in, and I don't know. I didn't think that was going to transpire. I had gotten a vehicle, and at the time, for years fought against it and said I didn't want it. But at one point, I did end up wanting and deciding to have that vehicle, and I absolutely loved it. Um, everything I had pretty much wanted, I got in my life at that moment and at that time, until it decided to be a different change and shift in life, where it's like, okay, so what do you want now? Because, like I said, I'm not trying to continue to climb up this ladder and not get the compensation for my time that I felt as if I deserved. And the whole reason why I couldn't do that is because they couldn't pay me enough. It wasn't anything they could offer me that was worth giving up the experience of myself. And I wasn't aligning or agreeing with that. And it was like, okay, I don't do this, and I'm not doing this anymore. And I ended up working from home. It was COVID for everyone in the world, but for me, it was the opportunity to be where I wanted to be with my home and my family and my children and myself, and I got to know me on so many different levels, and to actually have an opportunity to save me. It took a little while. It took some changes, but I'm here, and I've been here in so many different ways. Just saying I'm here, just different changes, and I'm sure I have so many more to go, and because I'm magnificent, so my greatness is guaranteed just to spread and expand across this entire world so much, because I'm loved and you are too. But if you haven't gotten to that space yet of knowing how you are loved and knowing how you matter, and Lord God forbid if you are anywhere as bad as me at some point, then it'll take some digging to get through, but it's definitely possible. And that is my whole purpose of this journey. And just to see, like I say, look at me now. It's like, what you gonna do now that you won the Super Bowl, or what are you gonna do, like, to look at me now. I don't know why. It's like a Chris Brown in my head, but a Fabulous in my head too. So the picture of Fabulous now, and just hearing Chris Brown with them getting paper. Um, the life that I live is truly freedom. Um, I'm definitely not done. I have a lot of transitions happening now that are, they're coming into my life, and I'm receiving them so, so well. I was such a thing with me and receiving. I'm overdue from receiving, and I'm backed up. So it may take me a moment to even get back up here and say something else because of the fact that I feel my abundance. You know, I feel my graciousness and just the I'm appreciative of it, just so appreciative of life in a different way and space from sitting in that cubicle and meditating. But that truly was a start for me, and I'm appreciative and grateful for that start. Like I said, and it led me home, it led me to studying, it led me to just being so open to a different world, um, just transitionings and changes that transpired in my life that led me to peace. It led me to peace. It led me to joy.